Hi, I'm Julie Fei Fan Balzer, your host. It's hard to keep up with each and every new trend, but you can find your favorites and use them to your advantage. And that's just what we're gonna do right in this segment. So I'm mixing a little bit of old and new together. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I am gonna make this layout, which I think is absolutely fun and cool and very flowery and shows off this adorable photo with a huge tree. So I'm working on some watercolor paper and I'm using a stencil. Now this may not be the kind of stencil you're used to seeing. Probably something like this is more like you're used to. Here's another flower design and you can see it's, you know, a shape and then you spray through the holes. And this is kind of the opposite, right? It's a mask as opposed to a stencil. So the first thing that we're gonna do is I'm gonna take a spray ink and I'm gonna go ahead and spritz around it. Then I'm gonna take a second color because I like to mix up my colors and I'm not worrying too much about anything. Then I'm simply going to shift the little mask over and I'm gonna repeat the process. And if I spray into what I've already done, I'm not worried about it at all. I'm just gonna keep on spraying. Now there's a lot of juicy mist all over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna flip it over, and to protect my fingers, I'm gonna take a roll of paper towel and I'm just gonna roll right across the top of it. That's gonna create pressure, but keep my fingers totally clean. Well, not totally clean, but close. And there's still enough ink on here, I'm guessing I could get at least one more soft print. Okay, and once my stencil is clean, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add a third color, which is yellow. Now thinking of these colors, I've tried to keep everything in a sort of, you know, yellow, green, blue, they're all next to each other on the color wheel. And then I'm gonna flip this over, just adding texture and all sorts of fun so that we think of nature. And I'm gonna let that dry, and while it's drying, I'm gonna head over to some technology. We're gonna take advantage of our electronic die cutting machine. So I'm gonna take a piece of pattern paper out, and when I've selected something that works for me, and again, I'm staying with that blue, green, yellow color scheme. I'm gonna pull the protective sheet right off of this sticky mat. I'm going to adhere my paper to the mat, and I know that I'm always gonna get perfect straight placement because of the grid that's on the mat. I'm gonna open the dust cover, press the edge right up against the edge of the machine, load the mat by pressing the white button, and once this is in, all I need to do is figure out what my design is. So I know I'm gonna cut some flowers. So I'm gonna go into the built-in patterns in the machine, and I'm gonna go ahead and look around and see what I want. I think there are some flowers in here that would be really cool to use. I like this flower a lot, and now you'll notice it actually has 3 parts. I'm not gonna worry about that yet. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna size this down. I want my flower to be pretty tiny, so I'm gonna make it about as small as possible. And I'm gonna hit OK, and now you can see it's separating the 3 parts, and it's gonna ask me, do I wanna cut this part? Do I wanna cut this part? No, I only wanna cut that part. So I'm gonna say OK. It's gonna ask me how many I want. I could cut as many as I wanted. Why don't we say a nice number like 16, okay? I'm gonna say set, and you can see it's laid it out automatically. Now, since my paper covers the whole area, I know I'm gonna be fine, but I could, of course, if I wanted, drag these and they would cut them from anywhere. I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna choose cut. Make sure that my blade is at the right depth. This is cutting at a 5, and I have a bit of an older blade in here, and so I think that's right. When you have a newer blade, you can generally use a lower number. And I'm gonna hit start, and the machine is just gonna start cutting almost immediately. And this is a great way to get a ton of cuts in absolutely no time at all. And of course, while my paint is drying, I'm managing to multitask in my scrap room, which I adore. So while this is cutting, why don't we come over here? And I have one of these which is already dry, although this is pretty close, I have to tell you. One of the benefits of using watercolor paper is that it dries very, very quickly. Now, this is what the flowers look like when you actually cut them out when the machine's done. But this is kind of flat and boring, and I want to add some dimension. So I'm going to take this mini mouse pad, and I'm gonna take a paintbrush, except that I'm not actually gonna be painting. I'm gonna be using the end of it. And what I'm gonna do, you need the mouse pad because you need the pressure, right? You need the cushion. And I'm just gonna rub in a circle in the petal. And by rubbing in a circle in the petal, you'll see that it creates a little like cup almost. So I'm just gonna continue to rub around, creating that little cup area, and a cup here, and a cup there, here a cup, there a cup, everywhere a cup, cup. And when that's done, I'm gonna have this incredibly dimensional set of petals on here. And to finish it off, I'm simply going to take a button and a glue dot. And the only reason that you need one of these adhesive dots is because it's just so easy. I press it onto the cellophane, pull it off, and then place it down. And as you can see on the finished layout, right, they just are so great. The dimension is wonderful, and they really stay pretty well stuck up, which I love. And the title, you can see, I just drew that with my own handwriting, and it's actually cut out of glitter paper. And I wanted to show you that the machine has absolutely no problem going through this glitter paper at all. You just have to check your machine settings to make sure you've got the right blade depth. Now, some easy alternatives. If you look over at some of these finished layouts over here, you can see this one. Let's say you're a little bit nervous about actually getting painty right on your layout. Well, what I did is I decorated some tags and then I adhered them onto my layout. And that's a really great and easy way to have some safety when you're working on something. You can also do these tags when you don't know what you want to do and you have them stored away for later. And then this technique here, well, that's a really, really fun stenciling technique. And you know what? At the end of the show, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that.